Welcome to my channel, welcome to my video. This one is going to be about the Chinese diesel heater, which I eventually went for affordability reasons. And this is the unbox and my installation. Hopefully it'll be of some use to those of you out there considering getting a Chinese diesel heater, or may have even got one that have not quite took the plunge and put it together yet. Let's get right into the action. So I actually unboxed mine the other day. I'll just show you what's in it. And I started assembling it. All along my intentions were to have my heater down here. The floor's been cut out in there, and there's also a ground point, like a ground anchor in there. That's where it was originally going to go. Then I was going to box this off and the other side that you can see through here, kind of, except there's loads of stuff in it. And I'm going to box that side off and the other side, and I thought that's going to be nice and quiet. It's nice and close to batteries, which I've got down there, and it was close to the control panel. However, unboxing it all and kind of working out what things are and how they're going to go together, I've realised that that might not actually be the best place to put it. It's cramped and out of the way down there, which is what I wanted, and so therefore it's not really taking any space up. However, I'm going to have to change where I'm putting it, and I'll show you why. Follow me. I've got some bits unboxed here. There's also some left in there. We've got the various pipes and fittings and fixtures, but I'd overlooked one major thing. Where's this going? Where's that supposed to go? It's not going to go under the cupboards because they go almost to the floor. It could go down this side, but then one, the pipe's not long enough, and two, the electrics will be in there fixed eventually, and I don't want a pipe going down the middle of it. Could I have it through here and then coming out under there? Possibly, but that means that cupboard and that cupboard would have a pipe going through it, and I'd have to go and buy a longer one. So, silly me, didn't think about that. That means I've got to change where I'm going to put it. So, over there in the back corner is, for me, I think the next best place, and the reason that is because it means that the diesel is easily taken out from over there. I know that there's a ground point anchor right next to it, and I think this wire is going to be long enough. Well, I hope it will be, and if it's not, I could extend it right at the very end. So, placement, that's the first thing I would say to think about before you're even unboxing it. So let's just have a look at what we've actually got inside this box. We've got this, which I have no idea what it is. It's got some rattly bits and bobs in it, and I'm going to go and have a look in the book in a second what that is, because I've not seen that in anybody else's installation. And this looks to me like some sort of a fuel line. However, I've still not seen that in anybody else's installation either. I'm thinking it might be what goes under the van and then come back up into the heater itself, but we'll have to see. We've got some fuel pipe. We've got, this is the exhaust pipe. Fuel tank, and inside there's the bits that you need to put under the bottom if you choose to use that, you know, the nipple bit that comes out. That is the fuel filter. I think that's for air, but I'll take a look in a second. We've got a fuel pump and its holder that it's in, and I've connected that to the wiring harness. We've got the hot plate. It's a very cheap thin one. I've seen some of these with like a sort of with like a bit of a cylinder on that slots in onto your like through a big hole in your floor. Then we've got this sort of like dividing, like, it's not a bracket, what is it? We've got this air divider. I'm assuming if you want a couple of pipes to go around, and then we've got another one of them, obviously for the other side of that, if you need to use that one. Then we've got a bag of fittings. Lots of stuff in there. This looks like there's some self-drilling screws in there, some clamps, some Jubilee clips, some cable ties. There's all sorts of bits and bobs, some fuel line clamp looking things. And then lastly, we've got this, which is the muffler to quieten down to quieten down the exhaust, I think. I'm not entirely sure yet, but again, we'll find that. I've not done this before, remember guys, so this is the first time I've looked and thought about this stuff here. The video, it'll become more clearer later on. First things first is take that back out. Next task is placement. So we've got this space down here that, I know this is upside down, but see, that fits and that tube can come out there. There's enough room down there for the air to come in, and then this can either go there, or I was thinking to increase that room still, have it there, and then I can just box this section off. This is 2 full days later guys. I had a break yesterday, and the day before I was having no luck with the batteries on the drills. I'd not charged them up, and anyway, so I've just finished doing the hole. Now let me explain what I've done. So just looking down at the hole here, what you can actually see is we've got a top layer where there's the vinyl. Then underneath that we've got, I think it's 12mm, either 9 or 12mm ply. No, it's 9mm. We've got a 9mm ply. Then we've got 25mm of insulation. And then we've got the sort of up and down channels of the steel of the steel floor. Which, as you can see, actually makes another 10mm gap. I can fit my finger in that. So in total, you know, we're looking at that sort of depth. Now, if you look over here, that means that if I'd have put this level with the floor, bearing in mind there'd be another. Bearing in mind if I did it like that, there'd actually be another layer to go through as well. What would happen is the exhaust ports would be connected to the hoses whilst still in the van, so they'd actually be like that much hose, and so that was a problem, because if there wasn't a leak or anything, it would be like leaking like into this like underlayer and probably seep out up through any gaps that it finds. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be completely outside the van. Also, we've got these like M6 bolts, screws over here, and they're obviously not deep enough. They're meant to go flat with sheet metal. So yeah, so what I've done is I've done that hole to accommodate that, and then I'm gonna have to cut back these top layers and seat that into the floor. Because I don't have one of those like reciprocating saw, oscillating saw, I don't know which one it's called, that could cut down at nice straight lines and across. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to eat away that top material, because I've broke all my jigsaw blades and I need to go and get some more. There we are, sat nice and snug into the floor, and luckily the entrance and exit has got just enough to get your finger underneath. There we are, you can see that everything reaches round. Quick update, I've got the cap on there, the pipe is attached by a Jubilee clip. I'm going to run the positive and negative that's going to go to the battery through the corner of that cupboard there, and hopefully it'll reach there. If not, I'll have to extend it. What I have done is I've cut the fuse off. Main reason is I don't want to drill big massive holes just to get it through there. I very nearly did. So how plasticky and horrible this actual fuse, inline fuse is, and I've actually got a couple of other ones. Inside your fuel tank you'll find a little packet of like fixings. We've got 3 hex bolt screw, like self-drilling screws, with washers and nylon washers. And we've also got this doodah. It's made out of aluminium by the feel of it. It's threaded about 2/3 of the way up, and it's got this sort of like cylinder there. You also get 2 O-rings. So I've slid one onto the top of here, and the other one will go on the outside. That's to try and prevent any kind of leaks. And then you've got this fuel tank. Now, this fuel tank doesn't come with any kind of hole. Obviously, they don't know where it's going to be installed, and you might need to install it either on the side, the bottom. They just don't know, right? Now, I'm going to install mine on the bottom. So what I've got to do first is I've got to either drill or melt a hole, or whichever way that you choose to do it, to the bottom of there, that will allow this to fit through easily enough. Alright. After that, we've got to try and get this through the hole to be able to tighten on the nut. Now, if you're just going to drop it in like this and hope it's going to land on your hole, I have seen people on YouTube doing that, and it did work, and first time as well. Well, I'm going to try and save you that trouble. I've seen people using coat hangers, and I'm going to use a piece of string because I haven't got a wire coat hanger, and I can't find any wire floating around other than electrical wire, which is my alternative. But yeah, for now, piece of string, and we'll see how that works. Got a piece of electrical wire left over. By this point, I bet you guys have as well. So we've got some electrical wire. You don't need a coat hanger or anything like that. Slide it through. There we go. Next, we're going to slide it down with a thin side going to the outside. So slide it on like that, and bombs away. Straight to the bottom, like I literally weren't even trying. So there we go, comes out perfectly. I don't know if you can putting this on. As far as I can see, the mesh is on the blue side, so I'm going to attach it blue side first, coming out to the white side, the clear side. The fuel pump comes with this like rubber sleeve. Obviously that's supposed to be some sort of like dampening for noise. However, a lot of people do complain that these are very noisy, like the clicking's really irritating, really noisy, and you only have to watch a couple of YouTube videos to see that for yourself. So I did see one guy who'd done this, and I thought it was quite ingenious. What he'd done is he'd hung it from cable ties, so it was actually suspended, it wasn't touching anything, therefore the vibrations weren't able to pass through and vibrate off of the body itself. To seal off the vapour barrier, I've literally got that much foil tape left for the edges. Wasn't quite enough, so I've had to use some of this American duct tape stuff. I need to build up to the ribs, height of the rib, and I've got some butyl tape to do that with. Not got much of it left, but that's what I'm going to use. There we go, I've raised it up, it's almost level now. I'm going to put a bead of silicone along the top to there. Look at this case. Yeah. Yeah.
It's dripping out.
What do you mean it's dripping out of the bottom? Right guys, that was a massive disaster. I've drilled through the tank slightly so it's just leaked straight out where the screws were. You'll see it in a second. I'll just put it in there for now. We're ready. This is where we find out none of it works. Look, it's gone bright now. We think the pump's on a timer and it goes off before it's actually ready, and this has been empty still. It's about 4th time we've run it now, and what we've also found is that the bubbles travelling up here struggle when this is at that angle there that I've left it at, but then when we tilt it to that angle, which is what they pretty much recommend in the book anyway, it gets the last of the bubbles start sucking through. We're nearly there now, we're just finishing off. This side's the last side that's not quite got any fuel in it yet, but all the rest of it's full now. We're just on the final bit now, and this has still got a lot of air in this side, but it's all solid fuel for the rest of the pipe. So I think we're going to try it after this one. Just try that. St. Glow plugs on. Starting up.
Cold.
Oh yeah, it will be. Showing 11.4 down there. And up here, it's saying 12.8, so I'm not quite sure how that works. So our exhaust is smoking. I know some people's don't. I don't know why it's coming out so slowly. It's just made like a shooting noise, and there's like an E10 showing, but it is faster, like a backfirey kind of noise. Yeah, what a bang! Now it's turned off.
Wow.
I've been doing a bit of fault finding, so I've checked that I've got the right volts. That all looks good. I've took the fuel pipe off the bottom and checked that it's spitting fuel out. That's all good. It's still not going though. It's still not going. It's still saying E10. Still getting the E10, guys. This is I don't know, maybe my 10th attempt, and changing of positions of things and unplugging things and swapping them round and putting things upside down, straight again, sideways. See, it's just cut out again. That was like its first attempt. Let's try this again. See, it's come on. And what I keep finding is that the air bubbles are just vibrating on the spot like that. That one seems to be going down to the right hand side, but then look, it's coming back up again. Can you see? I'm thinking that might be what the problem is. I was laid in bed last night, watching a few videos, reading a few people's experiences, and there was one thing that I saw that I think might be really useful. There was a guy I found on YouTube, some old like Australian sounding guy. It's quite rare to come across the type of guy that I found actually, and he really knew his stuff. He were so in depth and involved and explaining each and every detail about these Chinese diesel eaters. He'd put them all into different parts. I'll try and put a link in the description. Anyway, he compared the tube that you get with your diesel eater, and he explained that it was really flexible. It's got a large bore, really large bore, and it's not suitable for those Chinese diesel eaters. Now, the reason he explained, it was very involved, so I'm not going to be able to do it justice, but I'll try and explain. I'll try and summarise what he said. He explained that the diesel eater pumps, the fuel pump, it's only got a tiny piston inside, and they'll only sort of like pump through 0.2 mil of a 0.2 of a mil fluid through at a time. And so, and also he said that they naturally like produce very small like air bubbles, and he says it's perfectly normal, but with this piping, because it's so flexible and it's got such a large bore, that the amount of fluid that travels through is heavy, and that you've got to try and bring that weight through the pump and force it out the other side. And he also said that those pumps are not very good at sucking. They're better at blowing. I know that sounds funny. So basically what it leads to is there's air bubbles in the system. Now, what I was finding is there were air gaps maybe this big, and there were multiple going along. And we also found that they were kind of like oscillating. They weren't moving anywhere. Now, the reason that was, by the sounds of it, was because this tube's so flexible and it's so squidgy, and it's got such a large bore, and these air bubbles being released by the fuel pump, it's basically just building up. So if you just imagine there, we've got the fuel pump's coming through this side here, it's trying to get the diesel up, down to your diesel eater. Well, this top bit here, it would be spurting some bubbles out, and it'd just be building along the top. Now, what that means is that as more fluids try to be pushed in, it's just the air's just acting as like a sort of shock absorber. So it's not moving the fluid anywhere. Now, that made a lot of sense to me. So we've got air bubbles, we've got only being able to move a small amount of diesel, and we've got the flexible hose. All contribute to that fuel not coming out properly. It still allows the fuel to get through, but the fluid just dribbles out at the end. So it's still coming out, but it's dribbling out really, really slowly. Now, he compared it to this stuff. This is a nylon hose, so you can't squeeze it. If I put my fingers on the end there and squeeze it, it doesn't squeeze. It doesn't squeeze all the way along. Now, that's going to save us from kinks, because they did kink as well. And not only that, but there is a smaller bore. So the inside diameter is a lot narrower than that one. The fluid that is travelling through it is a lot less. So because it's putting less through, there's less weight to carry, which makes it slightly more efficient at pulling that diesel through. Now, the difference between this and that was day and night. This was spurting out like 25 mil up into the air, whereas that was only just dribbling out the tip. This is the temporary setup. We've got fuel tank leading down, and that's pointing up and then down. Let's see how this goes. It's definitely sucking it along the line faster. I don't know if you can see that. You can see that just flowing in nicely with no air bubbles at all. I've pulled the pipe up and held it in the air, and it goes straight from the fuel pump upwards. I want to show you what happens. Look at that. Now, a minute ago, and there was air in the system, there was nothing coming out. But now, look, when there's no air in it, in fact, it's even better when you lift it up. Now what I have noticed, and I'm not sure what's going off here, I'll show you in a second. Looks to me like that fuel is solid. I can't see any air bubbles in there. So that's its first test that's failed. But yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. This here is my air pipe, and as you can see, it's absolutely dripping wet with diesel. It's literally dripping, and if you follow it along, it's wet the whole way along, and it's wet all under the van, look, and it's wet all down the side of the tyre, all down there. Why is the diesel coming out there? Actually, this bucket's been underneath it for weeks, this van, and I've just noticed, look inside, that had water in it before. That don't look like water to me, and it's going to leak everywhere. Yeah, it must be full of diesel because there's a big U-bend in it. Wow, look at that. It's been running a couple of minutes and there's nothing coming out there. I think it's working. It's never got to this stage before. That's blowing out warm air, that. Floor plugs off, set to 35. Currently set taking 12.1. No error codes. 18 degrees it's saying in here. And that is almost too hot to put, in fact it is too hot to put your hand in. Now coming down here, it's noisier than I thought it would be. Floor plug's gone off just before it's turned 4 minutes. So it takes just over 3 minutes to get fully kicked in. Now the air that's coming out is really nice and warm. And I've expected to have seen some carbon monoxide actually by now. It's still showing 0. It's absolutely beautiful and warm. I'm really loving the heat coming out of that. That is so toasty warm. It's amazing to think that this were a box van not so long ago, just a panel van, and now I'm sat here in front of a boiling hot heater in this nice black room. Basically, it's just, I love it. Thermostat showing 43, 42.2 now, and that is after 21 minutes. So just to summarise what we've learnt today, these fuel pipes are definitely better. I say that because there's no air coming in at all. It's sucking it and it's blowing it, and there's no air bubbles in there. Well, the smidgiest amount, but it's not like it was before. There were big massive air bubbles. 2, to purge the system or prime it, we had to bleed all the diesel out of it first, and it wasn't working having it connected to the diesel heater. So I unplugged it, I held it out in the air upwards, so the pump was down here, and I held the tube right up in the air. That allowed any air bubbles to escape. I very carefully put it back down and put it on. There was the smidgiest, tiniest little bit of air bubbles left in there, but this line was solid fuel. We've learnt that the air, I don't know if it's meant to, but at least for today, that where I'm at, we know that the air intake releases any unwanted fuel, any unused fuel into its pipe. Now obviously I don't know if that's what it's meant to do or not, but that's what mine was doing. So for me, the E10 code came about because I was trying to prime the system and the air bubbles weren't escaping, but diesel was still leaking into the heater. Every time I restarted it, turned it off, all of the diesel got drained out like a plug hole into my air intake, and because it went up like this and then round, it was getting all filled up here. Now it managed to fill itself all the way up and then actually go along this pipe and start leaking out. So we had a full pipe of diesel. So the next time I tried starting it and it weren't starting again, well, that's because the pipe was full of liquid. The air was trying to come in and it found that it was completely blocked. So I kept trying and trying and trying, and all the more it was pushing diesel down into that pipe. Now it's working. I'm really chuffed. I like it. Blows stupidly hot air out. It's silent. It's nice and quiet.